Hello. Thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Um, just seeing that people are still trickling in a little bit. So I'm going to get started now though, so we can give plenty of time for the presentations. My name is Hilary Chassé, and I'm the program coordinator at Asia Art Archive in America. AAA&A is the smaller satellite sister of the Hong Kong headquartered Asia Art Archive, which is an independent nonprofit dedicated to collecting, preserving, and making accessible information on contemporary art from and of Asia. And tonight we're really excited to be able to present what's become a bit of an annual fall tradition for us at AAA in America. We have had our fourth annual independent publisher panel. This is our fourth year, which brings together the creative individuals behind two Asia-related publishing platforms. And so in the past years, we've had participants either from the US, focusing particularly on Asian American artists or diaspora culture, and also participants from Taiwan, from China, and from other parts of Asia directly. And so tonight we're really very excited to be able to host Beatrix Pang, who is the founder of Small Tune Press and co-founder of ZINE COOP and Queer Reads Library, and Xen Nhà, who is the founder of Red Pocket Press. And they're going to be sharing their work and experiences with us during tonight's event. So to give a little bit of rundown on how this event is going to work, both Beatrix and Xen will start by sharing brief presentations on the history and missions of their press, and how they got started and what their goals are through these different projects that they've initiated. And then following both of their presentations, our moderator for this evening, Chang Yuchen, will join them in a discussion to reflect on the current state of artist book publishing generally, but particularly in this moment of pandemic, of limitations in travel, in financial challenges that are happening for artists and institutions globally, protest movements, and how these types of printed matter can help respond or bring communities together. So a wide range of topics we're hoping to cover tonight, and we'd love for you to share any questions you have for both of our presenters and our moderator later this evening. So we're going to try to keep it to an hour, but if there's lots of questions, we might not be able to get to them all, but please do put questions into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen at any point during the presentations tonight, and Chang Yuchen will help get to them later. So just to introduce our three speakers tonight, I'm going to read a little bit about their bios, although their faux bios are available on our website. So Beatrix is going to be starting, and Beatrix Peng is a visual artist and independent publisher based in Hong Kong. They founded Small Tune Press to produce art publications for Hong Kong art and cultural creatives. They're also an organizer of educational programs and community exchanges in Hong Kong for many years. Peng also founded the artist collective ZINE COOP in 2017, which is focused on introducing Hong Kong's zine culture to a broader international audience. And in 2018, they initiated the Queer Reads Library, a reading platform to create space for multi-gendered inclusivity and visibility. So she's quite a busy publisher and has lots of different projects that she'll be sharing with us right after this. And then Xen Nhà is a documentary maker and artist who's grown up on the unceded Kunlun lands in Melbourne, Australia. Their first self-published zine series was Min, Volume 1 and 2, which explores the fluidity of the Vietnamese body. They are also the creator of Red Pocket Press, a publishing project for queer Asians honoring the Lunar New Year through zines, food, and gatherings. And so she'll be sharing a little bit more about both of those projects and other projects that she's been working on over the past several years. And then our moderator this evening is Chang Yuchen, who is an artist based in New York. She works in an interdisciplinary manner, and she has been an artist in residence at Mass MoCA, Mad Museum in New York, Banana Fish Books in Shanghai, and the Textile Art Center in Brooklyn. She's shown and performed her works at UCCA Dune, Tycoon Contemporary Arts, Parasite, Salt Projects, and Assembly Room in Brooklyn. And she's also a teacher of many things to do with artist books and publishing at the Center for Book Arts and Printed Matter. So she'll be helping to guide this discussion. But again, please do feel free to add your own questions or comments for these presenters this evening. We want this really to be as interactive as Zoom can be. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Beatrix to get started. Thank you very much for joining.
Hello, everyone. Hi, this is Beatrix Pang. Right now, I'm in Hong Kong at my home, and it is 9:07 in Hong Kong. And I'm drinking a cup of green tea right now. Hong Kong is getting a little bit chill these days. I'm very thankful to Asia Art Archive America, especially to Hillary and also my co-panelists today, Xen and Yuchen. Thank you very much. And also everyone here to attend the panel. So I just wanted to share how did I start like my artistic path from being an artist and slowly developed to my interest on publishing and other publish related projects. So and also just just before I start my presentation, I would like to share a file that would be follow my presentation. And let me see. Okay, let's see how I should share it. Okay, maybe I will share it a little bit later, and I'm just go ahead with my presentation first. Okay, so Hillary was just introduced my practice, and I'm working with my own like 3 projects right now. One is called Small Dream Press. It's basically a small press that I run by my own, and it started in 2012. And then 2 collective, which they are running with my friend and colleague together, and they are ZINE COOP, started in 2017, and Queries Library in 2018. So I'm just for a little bit history about myself, and before I started to work with publishing, I studied photography while in university, and in my master's study, and after a bit while, I started to practice video shooting, video work as my practice. And the topic mostly I focus on about environment and the changes in the environment, like changes on land or changes on the lighting, the lighting that changes the environment. This is a Vimeo page which you can find on the internet. When you search Vimeo and my name Beatrix Pang, you will find it. It's just 5 videos there, and they are it's a different time of my work. So if you have time, you can please go to check it out. And so in the recent year, during the time when I'm working with publishing, I was also would have working on my own art practice. So from learning the experience on from publishing and printing, I gradually developed my work into use more specific on using paper material and printing method. And so, for instance, this work is called Boy, which I did in 2016, and it's about my encounter with a group of Indonesian people who are living and working in Hong Kong, and who they identify themselves as like a boyish outlook. And I'm not sure if all of them are lesbian or queer, but from what they presented themselves with their outfit, I found that they are identify themselves as like from a queer community. And so I met them in some weekends, and it's a project that I constantly follow them and going to where they um, hang out during the weekends, and I asked them if I could draw them. So this is more like an approach I wanted to use through blind drawing and a little bit of photography as documentation, but not direct photography. Yes. And another work which I did in 2017 is more like a therapeutic project, which about like my turtle had died some years ago, and after that I have been spending some time observing zoos and wandering in the zoo and observing the people in there, and this is a piece that I using screen printing and blind drawing again, and some photographs as my documentary material for this piece. And so before I started Small Press, I actually had been working on two publications, and those are my first so-called editorial experience. So in 2011, I had I'm lucky to work with Hong Kong Art Center and Hong Kong Art School, and they at that time they were presenting a project and a symposium, which had to invite 200 curators, artists, art practitioners, cultural practitioners from the Pearl River Delta. And so after the symposium, we have published, make a publication called Trading Places. And that time I was co-edited with the project director. His name is Matthew Tanner. Is a design historian, and that time he was the active how to say the art school Hong Kong Art School principal, and so that book. I mean, these two books you could find in the Hong Kong Asia Art Archive in Hong Kong. And so the other book which I published with my classmates while studying in the Polytechnic University in photography. And so it was published in 2010, and it's called CLAG, Photography and Cultural Magazine. And this is a magazine which we planned for to publish 2 times a year. And the picture that you are looking at is the first issue. And we aim to publish this book as a magazine is a medium that we want to deliver to the readers, who, and also ourselves, that at that time in Hong Kong there was a lack of reading material, and also about photography, and it was also published in Hong Kong. So we thought of why don't we just start a photography magazine right after we graduated from the university. And I think they are definitely something that we want to carry on by studying and looking into contemporary photography culture, and also to bring these knowledges to our readers. So this magazine has been published 5 issues, and I was working on the first issue, and then after that I started Small Toon Press. So Small Toon Press was started in 2012, and so far I have been published like 12 publications, and I didn't identify if I would focus on only publish photography book or image content book, because I found I found that I'm more interested in different topics, and especially like poetry, and whenever the topic they are interested and they are less being pay attention to, and so there are topics that I've been covered from calligraphy, poetry, like a small poetry, and also photography, like a personal diary. And so these are more the photography content publications. And these 2 books are they are just published this year in the middle of the year. One is called Aftershock, and the other one called Gen Command Set. And both publications, they are somehow related to the social movement in the anti-extradition bill movement last year, and both of the authors they were frontline reporters, and so these are the works that reflected the social situation in Hong Kong during last year. And right, and these 2 books, if anyone in New York or in America, you could purchase them from Printed Matter. And to me, learning to be a publisher, since I'm not coming from any publishing or printing background, and so during the journey of learning to be a publisher, I learned that I have to go out and introduce more books from Hong Kong to other overseas audiences. And so I had been traveling to different book fairs and carrying all these different titles from Hong Kong, and also during besides like promoting the books themselves, I've also lucky enough to be invited to be teachers, like a teaching artist. For instance, these projects that I have been working with Asia Art Archive the past few years, and also especially this year during the pandemic, I especially designed an online workshop for teachers and students making zines, and also this material you can find on the Asia Art Archive webpage. And also last year, there was coincidentally there was a project that also related with Asia Art Archive and another Hong Kong organization called Art in Hospital, and I was working with a group of mental illness patients, and working on the ZINE project, which reflected that under the topic of pandemic, which is not the current pandemic, but the pandemics that had happened in the previous in our history in Hong Kong. And so we created these scenes that is about how we can get cure by different food therapy, like cooking and different kind of food that we know how they could help to cure our health. And so they are ZINE COOP, and they are my colleague, and we are from different places right now. I mean, we're all from Hong Kong in the beginning, but right now we all, like some of our members are moved to overseas. and Renee from right now living and working in Vancouver, and Jason in Toronto. And very soon another member, Atom, he will be moving to Japan. And then Forrest and me are staying and working in Hong Kong. And so ZINE COOP in the beginning is a platform. It's an idea at the beginning that we want to see more zinesters in Hong Kong, because we are making our zines and our publications. So we want to see if there are more other people out there in Hong Kong that are doing the same practice as us. So by creating this platform, ZINE COOP, it is like it's a way that we want to encourage more people to join and presenting their work through our platform. And so we had been always on starting on Instagram and Facebook. So if you go to Instagram, we are with the handle ZINE underscore ZINE underscore COOP is our handle. And there you could check out many zines that are made by Hong Kong zinesters, and they are all wonderful work. And sometimes we will announce some exhibitions, event that we've been participated. And so last year during the social movement in Hong Kong, we have received a lot of zines, especially like a category all about protest scenes, and from a number of Hong Kong zinesters. So we have been collecting them from time to time, and we thought I think we need more attention to be heard from more different places. So we try to gather, and many of the zines, they are in digital format. So we could easily just send out to different locations and then print it out in that place and to present them. So the first place we were exhibited these zines, there are in Vancouver when Renee was working and living there. And so she helped to start presenting the first Freedom High protesting exhibition. And so far, until now, we have about 100 zines under this collection. And you could all check out on our Instagram with the link under Milkshake. And we organize all the informations on Airtable. You could check out all the details of every scene there. And so we are appreciate and grateful that to have Asia Archive, Tate Library in London, and OCAD Zine Library in Toronto. And also there are a few different institutes who are generously collected these protest scenes from Hong Kong. And in the beginning of the year, after Freedom High exhibitions, and during last year, not only in Hong Kong, but there are other countries in the world that are having different social struggles and protest. So we wanted to see if other places who might be having have been created similar scenes like in Hong Kong. So we started an open call and invite everyone to send us their scenes by digital format or by post format, and this is like a presentation after we collected after we have the open call, and it's in the second year of the Hong Kong Art Book Fair in Hong Kong, and the Tycoon Contemporary Art. And so we just set our table and place all the scenes on the table for our readers to view. And so this is like a small preview of what we have been collected. And they are from Philippines, and this is we're grateful to have all these different scenes sending their scenes to us. and they're from Asia, and some of them from North America, South America, and yes, and some of them are from Hong Kong. And so my third project, which I want to introduce, is called Queries Library. And I am starting this project with two of my friends. They are Caitlin Chen, artist, artist curator. She's recently residing and working in Hong Kong. And Rachel Lau, they are right now living and working in Vancouver as artist and writer. And I'm lucky enough to work with them. And we knew each other in 2018 when Caitlin came to me for an interview while she was working at an online magazine called Still Loud. You could check out Caitlin's web and Rachel's webpage and to find out more of their work. And so the reason of starting with Queries Library is it was from an incident happening in the Hong Kong Library, and which that they taken away 10 children books with LGBT content, and right now they are still on hold, and which means they are put in the closed decks. Which means they are not publicly borrowed, but you can leave your personal information to read in the library. And right now the situation still stays the same, and the library doesn't make any updates or this current situation to release the book to the public shelf. And so by this incident happened, me and Caitlin and Rachel, we thought of, hey, how can we respond to this situation when to reflect as an artist publisher, and so we thought of why don't we create a platform and to create our own library and to present the books that we wanted to present to our public, and which when library is has a limitation of accessibility. So we have been trying, lucky enough to have donations from some of our elder peers who are queer activists, and they donated their collections, the collections which are from the 80s and 90s. Like this one, we can see from the image here, and some of them are newsletters which are published by gay hotline, and the other one is more like a personal public, like a personal interest of collections, and to send by post to the readers. And so besides the vintage collection, we have also constantly inviting different queer folks from all around the world, especially those with Asian diasporic. And so we are very happy to have received all these and to get to know all these friends from all around the world, and to have got their zines. And so Queries Library is, it is a mobile library, so we don't have a fixed location. So we have been popping up in different events like Hong Kong Queer Culture and Literature Festival, and also in the Queer Pride in Hong Kong. And this is our recent project that I would like to introduce. Is and hopefully we will try to finish by next year. And well, it would be like a portion of, but not an entire complete collection. So last year, in the middle of last year, we had organized a workshop which we wanted to make queer lexicon, and so we gather a group of friends, yeah, who contribute their words of how they imagine and how they name of some terms of their sexual identity, and so this list we are still collecting from time to time, and yeah, but it's going really well, and yeah, so hopefully we will be published then in printed in the printed matter and also on web platform. Okay, so this is last project I want to introduce. That it's called Work It's Work project, and it is a migrant scene project that was started in 2016, yes, and it's right now we have been published 2 issues from 2016 and then 2018. So it took us 2 years to produce a zine. And so we started a collaboration with my friends, and who invited me to be part of it, and which is project collaborated with the mission, mission for migrant workers in Hong Kong. And this is the first workshop in the beginning called Educate, Express, Empower. So we work with a group of migrant workers from Hong Kong who are coming from mainly from Indonesia and Philippines, and so we started with present different workshops, and then different exercises on the streets and in the classroom, and sometimes in the rally. And so these are some images from the first and second issue, and they are all with different medium, with drew or photograph or wrote by our migrant workers friend. And so yeah, there are some of our friends who are working currently on the third issue, and yeah, hopefully we will be yes, continue to work on this project. And so thank you. Yeah, this is that's all with my presentation.
All right. So thank you so much, Beatrix. Yeah, for your presentation. I really enjoyed that, and it was really great to learn a lot more about your work. And yeah, what an extensive collection that you've kind of built over the years, it seems. And I guess it was interesting to also see some parallels around like your background in like video work and yeah, other forms of media. And so that was really great to see. I want to thank you to Asia Art Archive in America, Hillary, for inviting me into this panel, and also and then also my other panelists, Beatrix Pang, of course, and Yuchen Chang as well, for moderating this panel. I just want to start by acknowledging that even though we're digital at the moment, that we're all occupying land in some way or another, and it's good to remember that. So I just want to acknowledge that I'm calling in from the Kulin Nations, and yeah, I'm in Melbourne, Australia. And the tea that I'm drinking today is like a pandan tea. So yeah, it's super yummy. I also have some beautiful peony flowers next to me, just to like keep me company. Yeah. So I'm just going to be talking a bit about how I got to starting Red Pocket Press, but I want to talk a bit about what happened before then, leading up to Red Pocket Press. So this is one of my favorite writers. She's also many other things, a musician, an academic, and this is a quote that she's brought up through several of her books, but I thought that it was really appropriate for me because I guess, yeah, for me, I think of my zine work, but also my work as a whole. I also work across sound, and I've worked in radio, and I used to volunteer at a community radio station here. And so I'm also interested in other forms of media too. And I think that, yeah, a lot of my work is about legacy. I really find that I like connect more strongly with the work I do if I know there is some sort of connection to, say, a history before me, whether that's a queer history or a cultural history, a friend history, or a family history. So I feel that this quote really speaks to a lot of the work that I do, and hopefully you'll see that in the presentation. So I want to start just by introducing you to my Banoi, who is my maternal grandmother. Sorry, my paternal grandmother. And this photo, for those of you who are tuning in from Melbourne, will recognize that this is the Yarra River that's in the city. And I think I was about maybe 2 years old here, but this is me with her, and I really love this photo. And yeah, I want to show you how she has inspired me in my zine work, but also unknowingly. Maybe like in 2006, she had written a memoir. She's still alive, but this is the front and back cover of her memoir, and it's a really gorgeous book, and it's all in Vietnamese, and I really struggle to read Vietnamese, so it's taken me a long time to read it, but there have been moments where I've read it and I'm just like reminded of like, wow, like how powerful it is and how important it is to have this book and to like physically hold it too. So you can kind of see from this scan that there's a lot of texture in the book itself. Yeah, and so I think about textures and how that influences my work, and yeah, you'll come to see that a little bit later on. So when I was younger, my grandmother used to watch, well, she would get me and my cousins to watch David Attenborough's like TV series, and she loved the tigers and the cheetahs, and the cheetah was actually my favorite animal as a kid. And yeah, so she would make us watch these shows and be really like amazed about the animals and the birds, and yeah, and that was a real bonding experience for me. And I also remember that she would collect magazines and like the National Geographic, maybe some other like gardening magazines, and she would actually cut the magazines and make boxes out of them. And so these are all the materials that she would use essentially. You know, scissors, sticky tape, magazines, the rice cooker, that's like the classic brand that we had at home. And yeah, she would make rice glue from like leftover rice. And yeah, we would, I wouldn't ever help with making the boxes, but I remember her making the boxes and seeing her do it. And the boxes were for storage, like to store things in. But it was, I also remember playing inside of them when I was like very small. So a couple of years ago, actually not a couple of years ago, last year, yeah, she had shown us what I consider like her zines to my cousins and I. And in the center, you can see that's a photo of her now with me and my two siblings. And on the left and the right, yeah, are the zines, what I call the zines that she made. And I'm really glad that I took photos of these, just given now I haven't seen her in a year due to the pandemic and being overseas. So yeah, when I look at these photos, I remember instantly like the how they would feel in my hands, like everything from the plastic to the sticky tape. And she would create these little photo albums that would include like notes and addresses and contact details, like updated details of our phone numbers. And yeah, so she's really amazing. And I think finding this about her, like, just kind of validated for me, like, yeah, I need to keep making zines, and like this feels like a really important space to be in. So I want to talk about a zine series that I'm super proud of. It's called Minh Zine. So Minh is the Vietnamese word which has several meanings. It can refer to myself, like, or it can refer to me and someone else. It can also refer to a group of people collectively. Yeah, so it can be I, you, we, us. And yeah, there's a lot of feeling that I have towards this word. And it might be because my Vietnamese like reading isn't very strong. So when I do come across a word that speaks strongly to me, I become very obsessed with it. So volume 1 was published in 2014, I believe. And then volume 2 was published in 2015, 2016. I'm thinking of publishing a third volume, which I'm really excited about, but I want to find the right place and time to do that. So part of the zine series is that the core of the body is not the heart, but the stomach. The trunk of the body extends from the shoulders to the tailbone. And for me, like, because the zine is about my experience with the body and gender and sexuality too, I kind of have explored different themes across the years. And I think that going forward, I would probably be touching on slightly different themes in the next issue, which makes sense. Like, the body is always changing. Your relationship with gender may change, at least for me. And I guess I find that often in Western society, there's a lot of emphasis on the heart, and the heart being the center of the body, the heart being what guides you in life. But in Vietnamese, like, the stomach is considered so central to everything. Like, you can say, I eat sadness, or I eat happiness. And so there's a lot of references to the stomach. And yeah, so that's why for me, I wanted to explore what it means to kind of decenter that place of where does the body go to, and where does the body move from? Yeah, and just also thinking about, like, how does our body appear as like a trunk, if we were to imagine as a trunk, or with branches, like, so thinking of the body as a kind of fluid organism. Yeah. This is just some examples from volume 2. And these 2 photos were sent to me by Display Distribute, which are an awesome like artist book and zine platform that you should definitely check out. They're based in Hong Kong, and they've been big supporters of my work. So thank you to them. And yeah, so the photo on the right is my zine. You can see there in the corner on a little zine display out in Hong Kong. And I was really happy to see this, just to see like how zines can be circulated across space and place, and how that is also part of like an extension of the body and the body of work itself. And the photo on the left is of my last few days in New York before I decided to fly home. And yeah, I had managed to pass on a zine to a courier from Display Distribute. So that's me passing along volume 2. So these are just examples of some of my earlier works. I think I published this one, Jiva M, around the same time as volume 2 of Minh volume 2. And this one was just a collaboration, a fun collaboration between my sister and I. Yeah, we had a lot of fun doing this. Well, I had a lot of fun, and we would kind of interpret photos from our childhood and then rework them into collages or an illustration. So these are some examples. The original photo you see is on the right at the bottom, and then the left at the top is my sister's interpretation of us and our relationship, and the one on the right is me, my interpretation of our relationship. In 2015, I edited and produced a zine called Spectra, which was about mental health, featuring stories by people of color here in Australia. And it was actually a very laborious process. It was my first time putting together a zine where I worked with contributors, and I didn't really know how to do the scans, and it became like a very laborious process. But through that process, I actually got to meet a lot of people, and I felt like in the zine, as you'll see here, I did some interviews with participants, and then I also opened it up for submissions, so people could contribute in however way they wanted. And I was also open to having in-person conversations with people, which I recorded. And yeah, that was a real honor to be able to do that. And this project came from my own place of struggling with my own mental health at the time, and wanting to just learn from others, and yeah, to connect with folks. So Speaking Bitterness is a zine that I don't talk much about, but I thought that I'd bring it up in this presentation. Speaking Bitterness is a zine that is basically a collection of my poetry. And yeah, the poetry kind of spans from 2015 to 2017. And yeah, what you can see here is there's lots of, I guess, poems that talk a lot about sisterhood and about grief. There was actually a lot of grief that was being processed through poetry here. And I think that being able to publish it in a small zine, even if it was just like a small handful printed, it felt quite cathartic to do. When I read back on it, I'm like, oh wow, this is a lot of grief, but I think that part of that was necessary to bring out into a form of a zine like this. So I want to talk a little bit about collaging and why that has become so central to my work, and you'll see that that has influenced a lot of Red Pocket Press. So collaging for me is a few things. It's an act of care, it's weaving ancestral legacy, and it's reclaiming dream space. And I'll be talking a little bit about each of these through the next slides. So collaging as an act of care, I was thinking a lot about how a lot of the collages that I've done for Red Pocket Press, if you've seen them through the zines, was made from materials like paper that I'd found on the street, paper that I'd found in a thrift store, paper that had been passed down to me. Some of them are really, really, really old. So I try to be really mindful of the waste that I produce when publishing Red Pocket Press. So that's one aspect of care, like thinking about zine publishing and how to, minimize waste while also creating an accessible space through zines. This quote in particular was kind of builds off that act of care for me. I was reading this really great article by Ariel Bernstein, and she critiques, she's a child, an immigrant child, and she, I think she's Cuban, but her family had gone through war and had left their home country for the US. But yeah, she kind of critiques Marie Kondo, who is Japanese writer, and she wrote the book, what's it called? Something about sparking joy. Sorry, I can't remember it exactly right now, but yeah, The Magic of Tidying Up. That's right. So yeah, and for me, Marie Kondo was also really like a great read for me. But when I read Ariel's piece about minimalism as an act of trust and refugees, that trust hasn't been earned. Ariel's article really talks about how clutter becomes like necessary for survival, and yeah, I think about like the environment that I grew up in. So very cute photo of me and my siblings when we were younger. But I really want you to just pay attention to what's surrounding us and not really us. As you can see, it looks like, I like to joke that I grew up in a junkyard, but it was like a very loving junkyard. And yeah, there's like a lot of things everywhere. And I think about like how there were years in my life when I was younger that I felt like there was so much stuff around me due to my parents, and that I couldn't control. And like, but also the beauty of that was that my dad would kind of invent things out of other things that you wouldn't think of, and he would create these kind of experiences for us of like putting like random objects together to make a toy, or something to just creating something out of objects that you couldn't imagine of. So yeah, for me, I think that collaging is very much also influenced by this experience of growing up, and yeah, kind of making things and out of the resources you have, and yeah, creating love and community and memories out of that. So the other day, my mom and I were like, we've kind of gone back and forth many times about the fridge being so full and the cupboard being so full, and I keep wanting to clean it, but she she keeps buying more food. And the other day she was like, oh, I need to clean the cupboard, and I was like, what? Yeah, I was like, oh, I said something, and then she's like, yeah, Vietnamese food doesn't have an expiry date, so there's no point throwing it out. So I thought that was really funny, and I think it also really speaks to the environment I grew up in, and like the idea of the necessary of like preserving things, and why how preservation is also part of collaging as a way to make use of things that you don't think should be thrown out because they have meaning or they don't have an expiry date, and how can you reuse those things to create something else that has meaning for you. This is just going back to weaving ancestral legacy. So I mentioned a bit earlier that collaging is also weaving ancestral legacy, and as mentioned a bit earlier, like, yeah, my grandmother had a huge influence on me, even though I didn't really know it until recently. Yeah, and I think that it's really important that if you know like the gifts that, or I guess it's really important to receive the gifts that are being passed and shared with you, and to honor that too. At least that's how I feel about the situation of like making zines. Yeah. So that leads me to Red Pocket Press. I started Red Pocket Press in 2019 officially. And this is the first, I guess, project where it's had consistency and I guess an annual publication since last year. So every year we publish a zine featuring queer Asian contributors who celebrate the Lunar New Year. And yeah, we also usually launch the zine with a little gather, not little, it was big this year, but gatherings where there's zines and food and art and performances, which is also part of the Lunar New Year celebration and carries on that kind of tradition from, our cultures. So this is just a slide to make you hungry. So I thought about how, okay, yeah, does looking at this make you hungry? And I guess wherever you are now, are you hungry? Hunger is something that actually really drives my work with Red Pocket Press. I think that I look at these textures and I immediately think of collaging. And I think a lot of my inspiration for the collages that I've created for Red Pocket Press is inspired by the food that I eat. These are some examples. So yeah, like I think about that crumbled plastic on the right, the pink plastic, and that used to carry, I'm sure, some delicious food that I bought. And then I decided to pull it apart and create this collage, which you will see is featured in the zine. And creating Red Pocket Press is also came out of my own desire to create a space because I wanted to see a space like that, especially here in Melbourne, Australia. I hadn't built many connections with queer Asians here, so I wanted to do that, but I also wanted to keep the press open for people who are outside of this country to contribute as well. So I felt that that was very important to create that exchange through the zine. I guess because growing up, that's where I found community too. Like I found community through Tumblr, and that's where I first contributed to my first zines. And I think that being able to share with people across the diaspora was very important in my queer self, and so I wanted to share that through Red Pocket Press. More examples of collages or food, if it makes you hungry. And now I'm just going to share some examples of contributors to the zine. So on the left is Tanyu Mai's work. They're an incredible photographer currently based in North America. And they also started a zine project many years ago called Vanguard with their friend Aiden. And yeah, their work has really inspired my work and also inspired Red Pocket Press too. And then Van An is from New York. So this is the Year of the Pig zine, our first zine, which was launched last year. And you can see that some of the backgrounds I showed earlier are featured here too. Here, still from the Year of the Pig, is Hung Tran, who is my cousin, queer as well. And he wrote a really gorgeous piece about cousinhood and friendship through cousins. And yeah, it's a really gorgeous piece. This is just a snippet of it. Then we have Dantan, who's from Seattle, amazing watercolor painter. And then has also contributed some writing. Eva, who I haven't met personally, but is based in Sydney. And alongside our annual Queer Lunar New Year zine publication, we also do an annual poster where we'll invite a queer Asian artist to design the theme for that year. So this was our first poster, which is really cute, by Melbourne-based artist Your Big Frog. This is from this year's publication, Year of the Rat. And yeah, again, we've had regular contributors like Dantan again, you see, who does incredible watercolors. And then on the right, two different contributors, Tali, who is based here, and then Tezi Wen, who is based in Vancouver, I believe. What I really loved about this year's zine was that a lot of the contributors spoke about ancestors and uncles and grandparents, and yeah, through poetry, photography, as well as visual art. Yep, so this is just a few more contributions from this year's zine. Vikvi, who's from Seattle, I believe, and then Sanaway, who is a really wonderful writer who has contributed to both zines, and this is their piece, which is about friendship, and they're based here in Melbourne. This year's poster was designed by my younger sibling, Lucky Pham, and yeah, it's a really cute poster, and I'm really glad that they could get on board. And they've also joined Red Pocket Press more in a curatorial fashion. And lastly, I just wanted to quickly plug one project that's in the works, but I'm super excited to join, is the Daknuk Library, which means land water. And this project started actually, I think last year, but it came out of a monthly potluck group that I was part of called Vietnamese for Refugees. And we would have monthly potlucks and share Vietnamese food and talk about what we wanted to do. And from there came this library. And I'm really honored to be working with a programming team whose background is in editorial, as well as librarians, producers, and designers. And so my programming team is Kylie Tran, Lana Wing, Phung Nhi Pham, and Kamha Pham. And yeah, this project is very new, so there's not really much about it out there, but it's a space that I'm really excited to be part of, and yeah, to work with others on. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you both for the beautiful presentations. I really enjoyed learning so much about your practice as artist, as editor, as publisher, as organizer. It was my idea that we would each start with local time, location, and what we're drinking. Here in New York, it's 9:06. This is what I'm drinking. I really want to highlight the distance between us. I think it's such a historical moment in 3 different ways. Here in US, obviously, it's the election. There's anxiety in the air. I don't even get to vote, but I share this anxious heartbeat. And Hong Kong, where Beatrix is joining us from, is living this aftermath of a year-long protest, which showed the whole world courage. And Xen, I just read on your website, there's an open letter that's a complaint against the logging of this 800 years tree, which has immense significance for Dijab Wurrung people. And you also, over and over again in your presentation, pay your gratitude and your acknowledgement of the land you're living. I think that's part of a longer struggle of the land you occupying. And apart from these anxieties that we each struggle individually, there's a global pandemic. I think any conversation starts without indicating this condition will be insane. We have to acknowledge that's the weather we're living under now. Although for a moment, I almost forgot because of your practice and beautiful things. But I guess I wonder if our conversation can start from here as well, the distance among us. I think distance has been present in the practice of zine making. Zine, much of its charm is that it travels, it duplicates, and it disseminates. It disperses into the wind like dandelion. I think both of your project Small Tune, something obviously can travel. Red Pocket is small and portable. They all indicate this lightness in the way it travels. And we travel too as book worker. We travel for fairs, we smuggle books in our luggage until this year. I guess I would love to hear both of you talking about the notion of traveling in publication and how it has changed this year. A little bit of COVID diary for us. Who wants to start first? Also, we are pretty short in time, and I have 2 other questions that I really want to ask. So this is against my will, but I will ask you to keep it short. Okay. Beatrice, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Well, as I just presented in my presentation, I think in the beginning when I when I started Small Tune Press, and I thought of how my books are being distributed. I mean, obviously you would think, then we just brought them to one of our some of our local bookstores. But again, Hong Kong, the bookstores in Hong Kong get less and less, and also there's like only very few like they are main chains bookstores in Hong Kong, which are not probably carry independent books, because they are small print, like small editions, and also they have a very strange genre that they don't know how to categorize, to put in the bookshop. So being traveling to art book fairs is actually one of my priority to selling or introducing my books, as well as I think not just books themselves, but like the whole experience, the journey to trying to look at what other people's doing out there, like, because making art books or zines are somehow, the culture is still so young, and maybe many people they didn't know what it is, because this medium has never been in our education, like not in the art school, like not even if, I asked friends who are graduated from design or art schools, the only people who might heard or kind of did a little bit similar things like book design are those who study graphic design, but that's it. So I think this knowledge has not been really developed and brought out, and so going to art book fairs is is one of the things that I learn. I can have a chance to learn and look at what other people did in terms of publishing practices. And so this year, no art book fairs, and but I think obviously we depend a lot on postal, like for instance, books that I just sent to Printed Matter, which I planned to send half a year ago when they just published, but I just cannot because the postage service is just retarded that time, like a few months ago. So and also that cost would be really high if I would try to do it, and also you never know if they would arrive. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, we receive your package.
Yeah, finally they arrive. What about Xen?
Yeah, I think just adding on to that, there have been moments where I'm like, oh, maybe I'll just set up a zine table like in my neighborhood and like see what happens, or like set up a display in front of my house, because there was a point where we could only go 5 kilometers like from our house. So I was like, oh, like I'm tired of maybe I'll just organize randomly pop up, which I might actually still do. But I definitely miss being in that presence of others. I think something we talked about recently was like how it's a great way to meet people, and like traveling is definitely a huge part of the work that I do. But it is also physically very demanding as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think in our last conversation, yeah, before this talk, we brief met few days ago, and I think we mentioned about like the cost of the whole package, right? The cost of yourself, of paying yourself to go there, buy the ticket, and then also the accommodation, and I mean the whole thing, the whole package doesn't really earn you enough from selling the books, and yeah.
Yeah, I think the economical side of book fair is a dark side of it for a lot of independent publishers. And I love the idea of setting up a table in your neighborhood. I think, isn't that the definition of anarchist action? That is, when you need water, you dig a well yourself. When you want to sell books, you set up a table.
Exactly, and bring maybe some food and hand sanitizer, and
Please share a photo when you do.
Okay, yeah. And also I think it's like a good way to share your work beyond, I guess, who would normally attend book fairs.
Right.
Like I'm really interested in maybe working more with children, and like a lot of, I mean, Red Pocket Press is all about like queer stuff, so I'm also curious how people would interact in that kind of space like that.
Yeah, actually that leads me to, well, I will reorder my question, but leads me to a question. I think queerness obviously is an important topic, content or concept, or even a context for both of your practice. Beatrice runs Queer Read Library, and Xen has this Queer Lunar New Year series. And I had this thought after our last conversation. I wonder if it would be a stretch for me to say that self-publishing is intrinsically queer. Obviously, queer zine is an important chapter of the history of zine. Like before there's any space for queerness in commercial publishing, self-publishing was the only channel. And before internet, as Sam mentioned, Tumblr, Instagram, Facebook, it was really the zine made in the bedroom that form a community that circulates information, democratizing information that was necessary. But even beyond having queerness as its content, I want to ask, would it be a stretch to say the activity of self-publish is queer by nature? Passionately making something at home, finding alternative distribution network, as our friend Display Distribute is a great example, and breaking canons, breaking categorization, constantly finding space in between. Of course, we are talking about not including but not exclusive to sexuality, but queer as a way of being. As Sen, I love this sentence on your website. You said you invite people to imagine that another world is possible. I would love to hear both of you talk a little about queerness to your practice as a publisher and artist. And if you don't agree with me, you can argue with me too.
Then you go ahead first.
Really, like, yeah, I wonder, I think, yeah, I guess in my presentation I talked a lot about like how my grandma has influenced my work, and she's not queer. She made I mean, yeah, but she made things out of necessity. And I think that like yeah, for me, like queerness, and I guess also recognizing that queerness in its what we say now is like a very like Western word, and like how do we I guess break through that. And I guess that's what I'm trying to do through like my Zine series. I think that, yeah, self-publishing can be very queer, but I am also concerned about, I guess, like I'm like design aesthetics, how they can like reproduce like forms of capitalism and uniformity as well. Like thinking about design types and how aesthetics can kind of reproduce these things that I don't think are queer. Yeah, but I think the circulation of zines itself and how zines can be circulated is very queer. Like we were saying, like things can be passed in a pocket, and people used to hang colored like flags, you know, off their belt to indicate like, you know, their gender expression or their sexual expression. And so I think there are these like signals that that zine circulation shares with queer community.
What a great word, signals. Yes, we're sending out signals. Beatrice?
If I would say queerness, it also means resistance. Because it's always being queer is you're not you have not of being fixed by a certain idea or you know like being just the opposite of the general, you know, like the, so I think and being not so-called obey. So I think being resistance is you it's also have a reflection of what are you thinking and how do you react. And I think I can see it really well in during the last year when we got a lot of scenes, the protest scenes that were made by the people of Hong Kong, and also from yeah, I think because this is a way that scene could be possible for people to make and to express their thoughts and their situations, and not just what they've seen or experienced in the protest or, you know, in the environment, but also something that they could reflect by the scenes emotionally, you know. So we found that those scenes that we've been collected, they are actually can be categorized into documentary, emotional support, journal, and miscellaneous. So, and the first three category are kind of the main theme that the main category that we found are all similar in those three category.
Yeah. Thank
So,
you. Yes, I spent a lot of time at that table burning issues, and I think I really experienced the emotional aspects of a movement that you mentioned, other than the things the newspaper will cover, other than the things that social media will circulate. But there's a deeper communication that needs to happen. I remember one thing is about how to cry, and another thing is about how to have a conversation with your family.
With your family, yeah.
Heightened political time. Yes, that's a really.
I found that these scenes are like they express the language that we never read before. Like not you could read from a novel, like you bought in a bookshop, or at least not in the Chinese context. I think like in our languages that we've been circulating, and this is so immediate and so direct, and it's like an emergency that you have to speak in now than never, or you know. So whoever you're speaking to, like to someone who is stranger, to your family, to your friend, to you know, that those scenes are all carrying those sense of expression, urgency.
Yeah, thank you both. We have 8 minutes left. I will ask one more question. We have one question from Jane, actually. But I just want to say, if this is too late for you, audiences, you can leave now. But we will continue for a little bit longer. Maybe we'll continue to 9:30. But stay with us if you are free. My next question is actually pointed out by my friend who's also in the audience, Anna. She just texted me saying, wow, such two different artists talk, one so community-based, one so personal. Although that was before Xen shared her later works, the library she just initiated, seems to have more of a community-based operation. But I found, Beatrice, in your presentation, there are so many reaching out movement. There's a motion of horizontally spreading. Even beyond the art world, you collaborated with medical institutions and laborers of all sorts. And in Xen, in your presentation, I see this beautiful movement that goes inward, that goes to one's own guts, to the stomach, to the hunger, and it goes vertically to your family trajectory and even the ancestral legacy of the land. You have such a strong notion of history that goes rather linearly. And I find these two beautiful counter movement. One spreads out, one goes up. So different, but so poetic in different ways. And I wonder if I can credit this difference to the fact that Beatrice, you are at home culturally and geographically, and Xen, we are not. I wonder if I can attribute your strong notion with history and lineage to the fact of the diasporic experience. So I guess my last question is slightly different for both of you. I wonder if Beatrice, you can talk a little about friendship in relation to publishing. And then if you could talk a little about diasporic experience in relation to your publishing practice.
I heard many of us I think many of us might heard like this phrase by Andre Breton, who said one publishes to find comrades, and which he wrote in 1997. And I think what this phrase behind is the power of publishers is not just a practice, but it's a movement by a group of people. You know, people who have a similar idea of how they want to create a movement or revolution in some point. And so it's not just only the objects, the book themselves, but also this energy of people, they come together. So to be honest, I never thought that from the first day when I started with Small Toon Press, and then I would have met friends who are right now working together with me in ZINE COOP and in Query's library. I think to me, these people, like, they have been there all the time, but I just never met them. So, and not 10 years ago and not 5 years ago, but they just come in the right time, the right place. And yeah, so and the thing is, I think each of us, we've been spending a lot of time and having a similar interest on like books and design and thinking of how to make something that could be circulate and not just owned by ourselves. And this kind of ownership or egoism is also something that I have been thinking when I'm working as an artist. And because artist is something that you speak up from what internally from your inside and from one perspective, and you want to satisfy a lot from what you wanted to present and express. And but making book or working with publishing is you're not only having your own voice, but you want other people's voice to be heard and hearing what happened to them and what are they doing. And so by making books or zines, I think yeah, somehow it carries this power of togetherness.
Yes. Now the personal.
Yeah, I think well, yeah, the personal. I mean, what Beatrix said about things carrying energy, like I see that too through yeah, a lot of the zines that I've made. And similar to Beatrix, I also come from like different media backgrounds, like in sound and radio as well, which is has been a lot more, I guess, visibly community orientated. But with the zines, I think like being able to explore both the personal and share that with a wider audience, and then encouraging others to have that vulnerability too through sharing their work through Red Pocket Press was something that I thought was necessary, and like necessary to not just like what you share with community, but also like how do you learn to like seeing yourself as part of the entity and like an act of care, essentially, like caring for yourself and knowing what your gifts are, and then being able to share that with others. So I think that the personal zine stuff is a way for me to also figure out, like, what can I share with others? And then, you know, maybe it only reaches like 10 people, but maybe those 10 people is totally fine. And who knows what, you know, what those people will do with that. And so I think that is like the magic of zines, that it can be passed on, or it can be kept to oneself. And but ideally, I hope that it is passed on. So.
It is passed on. I think I absolutely agree that personal is a methodology or approach to the public, or it is a selfless. When you center yourself, you transform yourself, your memory as a medium, while it's actually available for more to resonate with. Because even we don't share the same trajectory, I found so much resonance in the slides you showed. I too have a grandma who too is resourceful in her own way, doesn't waste anything, and immensely creative in finding usage of the materials around us. Yes, I really appreciate your answer. Thank you. The last question is a really hard one. It's from Jane, from Asian Art Archive in America. I'm gonna read it to you. Thank you very much, Beatrix and Xen. Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. It has been wonderfully reassuring on the eve of election in the US. As you are both aware, I'm sure the politics of division has flooded the globe, not just in the US, but in many other countries, East and West, North and South. What do you think about your work unites you two and all of us? What do you think about your work unites you two and all of us? I want to answer first, not to answer, but just to put more words around the question. I think of the word unite is the key here. When I think of unite, maybe the verb means to merge two things together, but it can also be a echo, as Beatrix and Xen just showed us. In two different approach, they can actually work towards the same goal, that is a communication, even though the approach seems drastically different. Can you two see the question, or should I put it in the chat?
Can see it.
Oh, okay. I feel like this question should be in presidential debate.
Well, I can definitely say that, you know, everyone's contribution is needed. And we can see that in this space, in the zine space. Like, people make zines for all different kinds of reasons. And I guess, like, what I really appreciate about Beatrix's work is, Yuchen, what you said, like that horizontal movement and that kind of growth in that way. For me, I guess my understanding of your work, Beatrix, is that it also comes out of necessity, which is also part of my work too. And right now we see that with COVID, like, necessities need to be met, and like very basic necessities. And I'm interested to see like how zines can also be part of that. Like, creativity is necessary to us, like, working together and thriving. So those are some of my thoughts around that.
Yes, yes, necessity.
Xen, I think your work is they're personal, but I think every personal voice is matter. I mean, zine is so generous that, and so not discriminated, you know, that it gives us a chance to emancipate, you know, to liberate our voice, and no matter who you are. And I think this is the most lovely thing for scene and for scene making, because it embraces all the mistakes and flaws, you know, like when your teachers or your parents tell you like we have all the rules and regulations that we have to follow, and scenes we're just like fuck it, you know, they just do it. And the most important thing is you do it by your hand, by your sense, by your experience, by what in front of you, and that's nothing. When you click on the internet, the buttons could realize it, you know, like making scene is something you have to do it, react on it, and read it, and to share. So I think this just basic ecology for me is just simply as that, and it has never been changed since the first scenes if Thomas Paine has published. Right? I don't know, like from the Western history, it seems Thomas Paine was the first one, who created the Constitution.
Yes.
So he has also an urgency to express like, hey, people in America, you know, this is something you have to read it and pay attention to. So it's never,
necessity, generosity, and immediate action. I think that's enough to unite us.
I think we are doing good.
Thank you both so much for the conversation. I really learned a lot. I took
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And Sam, I want to apologize. I think I misspoke your pronoun once or twice. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's fine.
And thank you, Yuchen, so much for hosting this with such care and generosity as well, I would say. I want to echo also what you mentioned earlier about this being such a respite. I don't want to keep mentioning what's happening tomorrow, as we all know, or at least those of us who are in the US right now know. But this has been such a balm hearing from both of you and hearing about the amazing work that you're doing and the communities that you're building and the kind of more generous world that you are inhabiting. So thank you both so much for sharing. And thank you everyone who stuck with us. I know that we went a little over the time that I promised, but I felt like we needed to hear this conversation out, and I wanted to continue existing in this world on this night. So really thank you both again. This is always the hardest part of the evening where we have to say goodbye. But if anyone missed this video, we will, if you have any friends who want to watch, we're going to put it up on our website soon. And if there wasn't questions we weren't able to get to, I'll share it with the panelists later, and maybe they can get back to you directly. So thank you all so much for coming. Thank you for sharing, and have a wonderful day and night wherever you are.
Thank you so much, Hilary.
Thank you.
I love you.